we're talking about $300 million a year in tax input.
It's a rags to riches story for us, and people's lives have really improved.
I don't think anybody visualized or had any crystal ball to comprehend what we have now.
Every dollar that was used to build that casino came out of the wallet of a loser.
You get in the issues of what's moral, what's sound, and what's not. Of course, being in the Bible Belt, gambling was a taboo.
It's not about gambling anymore. It's about jobs.
The history of gambling in Mississippi began long before it became legal in 1992. The actual start dates back hundreds of years to the native tribes that populated the state.
The Choctaw, they played, I guess you and I would call it rudimentary soccer kind of games. And the Choctaw called it Ishtaboli, which means brother of war. So I kind of look at the gambling situation, it was almost like a pressure valve release, that if there was a conflict between one tribe or another tribe, you went out on the ball field and you played it out, and no holds barred, you played it out. But on the sideline, just like a good football game now, on the sideline was all kinds of betting.
As the Mississippi River became important for trade, illegal gambling flourished. Then as now, the idea was to keep it on the boats and off the land.
There was some moat mentality that if it was separate from the land and isolated on this little boat, that we could at least keep track of all those sinners. And I've had people in Jackson put their finger on my chest and say, "You're here doing the devil's work."
But by the late 1980s, economic needs of the state had trumped moral objections. Other states were striking it rich with gaming, and Governor Ray Mabus and the state legislature wanted in on the action.
Riverboat gaming and the lottery basically were being discussed, and that was probably part of the reason that it took a while to get gaming passed in Mississippi, because the lottery was being discussed, and a lot of folks had a preference of the lottery versus gaming, and a lot of people I know go to neighboring states and they play the lottery, but I don't think Mississippi would have both.
There was very mixed feeling of gaming at all in the state of Mississippi. But at the same time, we had exhausted all the various perspectives of trying to generate or increase revenues in the state of Mississippi, which we tremendously need. That was affecting infrastructure issues in this state, mental health services in this state, across the board. And it all comes down to follow the money.
But some people found it hard to follow the money. At the time, Charlie Mitchell was the managing editor of the Vicksburg Post, a newspaper that strongly opposed legalized gambling.
There was no conversation. That was the thing about it, is that the 1990 legislation was passed and signed by the governor, Ray Mabus, I believe was governor at the time, and there was never any discussion of it. It was the first story in the Clarion Ledger about river gambling, or gambling in counties along the river and on the coast, was 3 days after the legislature adjourned. I thought it was very strange. It just proved that if the legislature wanted to do something and not have anybody find out about it, they were perfectly capable of doing that.
The final bill permitted gambling only on the riverboats and let local towns vote on whether to allow it. Several towns and counties, like DeSoto County, still refuse. Then, as now, feelings against gambling ran deep.
The tremendous stress from death threats I got, impact I got on my family, etc., went through a great deal for those people who opposed gaming in this state.
I was working with Dr. Walker right before he took that position And at that time, I think it was very heated and high profile because his coming from, with his background and being a person of faith, it was very difficult.
Casino gambling eventually moved on land in part to help rebuild from Hurricane Katrina. The leisurely riverboat gambling cruises have now given way to 28 casinos spread all over the state. More than 20 years after it became legal, gaming in Mississippi is now an accepted way of life.
I think that overall it has served our state very well.
Is it perfect? No. But I do think it has helped tremendously in the state in some places. Who were in desperate need because of the economy at that time. And a lot of states were really facing a recession. If you remember during those years, nationally we were facing a recession. So Mississippi tremendously needed the revenues for the state.
One of those places is the Delta, traditionally the poorest part of the state, if not the entire nation. The riverboats pumped millions of dollars into those local economies, revitalizing places like Vicksburg and Natchez.
In casino gaming in Natchez, we probably attain about $2 million per year in leases and taxes. And you know, for a small town like Natchez of 16,000, 17,000 residents, with a very small city limits, a compressed city limits, it helps a whole lot.
Vicksburg and the coast and a couple of other places saw their local revenue explode. Vicksburg's budget in 1992, July the 1st, 1992, was about $9.2 million. 2 years later, it was $30 million.
It's not just Vicksburg and Natchez. Tunica, Philadelphia, and Biloxi have all reaped the economic benefits of casinos, especially in the first decade after legalization. Gambling in Mississippi became a billion-dollar industry and returned hundreds of millions to the state's general fund in tax revenue. The state gets 8% of every dollar, while casino localities get 4%.
Put another $1.5 billion into the state of Mississippi's general fund since they've been here. And that's on top of employing Mississippi citizens and on top of inviting people to come and stay in the hotel rooms that they've developed from people all across the United States.
Perhaps no Mississippi town better illustrates the benefits of casino gambling than Tunica. Once the poorest county in the United States, Tunica embraced the casinos and at one time ranked behind only Las Vegas and Atlantic City as a national gambling destination.
Going back to before casinos, because I was here before we had any of the casinos. I was here at the newspaper, and the town had a tiny budget, the county had a tiny budget. We had no recreation that we could offer our citizens. We had a small library that the county supported, but now we have a wonderful library that offers internet service to a lot of the people that still don't have it in their homes.
Stay on the third floor. Okay. Okay? And if worse comes to worse, do what you have to do to save, and we'll get somebody out there as soon as we can. All right. Well, if worse comes to worse, my name is Ida Hunzo, and I tell my family I love them.
When Katrina devastated the state and its economy in 2005, it was the casinos that helped Mississippi get back on its feet.
The resurgence of the casinos has made the Mississippi Gulf Coast come back into to play, not to make a pun, but back into play very, very quickly.
Really on the changes that the outside world has seen begin to associate Mississippi with other than its past. And the way you the way you get people to understand you is for them to actually come here and visit us, and people are doing that because of the industry.
Casinos do their best to attract those outsiders. They promote themselves as places to win big and be at the center of the action, whether that's poolside, tableside, or front row for a hot show. It looks fun and glamorous, all with the chance to strike it rich. And for many people, that's just the problem.
Wherever casinos first open, there are people that get drawn in and become addicted before they ever even know what's taking place. And it's like, well, somebody said it's very much like crack cocaine. One time and you can be hooked, but getting away from it is much, much harder.
Gambling addiction is the dirty secret of the casino business all over the country, and Mississippi is no exception. Virtually unknown before casinos moved in, problem gambling has spread throughout the state.
On the Gulf Coast, where prior to legalized gambling there, they had 0 GA meetings, Gamblers Anonymous meetings. They have one there every day now, and sometimes twice a day.
A few years ago, the State Council on Compulsive Gambling commissioned a study. Among the findings, Mississippi has one of the highest rates of compulsive gambling in the country, with nearly 25,000 problem gamblers. They come from every age group and walk of life, and they have much higher rates of bankruptcy, divorce, and suicide.
People I knew, because Vicksburg's a small town, lost their jobs, lost their families, things like that. Not in any great numbers, but yes, it happened.
All the credit cards will end up being maxed out. Any amount of money that was in the bank, whether it's a college fund, a retirement fund, a savings account, all that's going to be gone. This disordered gambling has the most financially devastating impact on people of any kind of addiction.
No one knows that better than Dwayne Scroggins. A former casino worker in Tunica, he quickly fell into a life of gambling addiction.
I saw the dealer leave. Another dealer came in. Okay, shift change, no problem. I'd been there 8 hours, no big deal. Then another dealer came in. Then the dealer that had originally been dealing to me was back. I had sat at that blackjack table for 24 hours.
With gamblers, people that have a problem with gambling, really isn't so much about the money. The money is just the means to the end. It's really about the feeling and the act of being in action, of the anticipation of whether they're going to win or lose. That's really what it's about.
That's the one question I ask gamblers is, how much do you have to win to stop?
Stuart Milan works at COPAC in Brandon, a treatment center for addiction problems. Treatment centers, Gamblers Anonymous meetings, and the Mississippi Council for Problem Gaming all work together on what has become a growing problem.
The way to recovery from gambling is to stop gambling completely. Cutting back, trying to control it, obviously that hasn't worked before and more than likely will not work again.
It took a long time, but Scroggins quit gambling cold turkey and left the casino business. He is now a minister at a Methodist church in Cortland.
I believe that I went through that for the very reason I understand people who have addiction problems. I mean, I understand that need.
That when we want to reclaim our culture, we're going to run into one battle after another just like this.
That addiction has become a problem does not surprise Brian Fisher of the American Family Association in Tupelo. His group fought casino gambling when it came in and continues to fight it today.
Gambling is not just self-destructive, but it is socially destructive.
Down in Biloxi, John Landrum has seen that firsthand. Landrum once fought casinos as pastor of a local church. Since the casinos opened, he has ministered to help those in the casino industry.
Everything about the casinos to us is people. When we go in the casino, and we're in them regularly, we really don't see the gaming, we see the people. For the first 2 years, almost everybody we counseled, it was about an addiction, alcohol, drugs, or gambling addiction. And about half the people we counseled with were from our churches.
Landrum's situation points out the uneasy relationship between church and casino.
I go to a denominational church, the denomination that probably would be the most opposed, but you know, maybe they don't go there, maybe they don't go to the casinos, but they don't speak out against them. It's just not here.
City leaders in Natchez, Vicksburg, and Philadelphia, all good Bible Belt churchgoers, have a difficult choice to make. Men like James Young, the first African-American mayor of Philadelphia, who is also a minister.
Of course, being in the Bible Belt, you know, gambling was a taboo, and it still is. But we had no vocal opposition from the board. And I guess reality set in that we couldn't have stopped it if we wanted to.
If it was up to me, I probably would never build a casino. I probably never have lottery. I probably never associate anything that has to do with, and I don't. I don't gamble. I don't play the lottery, any of those tickets, but I do not get in the way of those that want to because it's a revenue generator and I don't want to do that.
Fisher understands that it is hard to argue against money and nearly impossible to undo what has already been done. But he and other like-minded Mississippians continue to fight the good fight.
I see casinos as social vultures. Casinos are vampires. They suck the emotional, psychological, mental blood out of people. The remedial costs of dealing with gambling addiction far outstrip any revenue that comes in to the community.
That view is not shared by Jay McDaniel. He is Deputy Director of the Mississippi Gaming Commission, the organization that oversees legal gambling in the state.
I think the fact that a lot of people don't know what we do is good just from our standpoint. We're doing our job. I think if you're not hearing about us, I think we're doing our job because nothing bad's coming up.
That job includes watching over every aspect of gaming. The Commission's primary objective is what it calls ensuring integrity and maintaining confidence. In plain language, that means no cheating.
But my job was and my commitment was that once the people decided to make sure it was done right in their community to protect their interests and to regulate it, and we had some of the strictest and toughest regulations, to be honest with you, if you compare it to other jurisdictions around the country at that time.
Kind of cheating you see most often is, like you said, bet capping or trying to switch a hand or trying to make a wager after the hand's already come out, trying to slide it in there. So it happens, but when you consider the number of people that come through our casinos, the number that actually try it is not that high.
The guys inside the counting room were all slipped in there to skim the joint dry.
The old stereotype of money going out the back door, like you might have seen when the mob ran them in Vegas, and you had the count room where the casino took its share and then the family got its share. That is so controlled now, you don't see any of that. But I would say we see more of the the small things, the misdemeanor stuff.
The concern always has been that the little crimes would turn into big ones, that gambling would turn sleepy Mississippi towns into centers of corruption and vice.
I think that was a myth from the start. Everybody seemed to think that there are a lot of crimes associated with casino. I guess back in the day, they thought that from Las Vegas to Atlantic City, because of mafia ties and that kind of thing, we hadn't seen any increase. The crimes that are related to this city are no different from any other city.
I'm more interested in keeping my boss happy and the folks who work here employed than I am about keeping the regulatory people happy. Because if I can do the first two, the third will be done.
Blackbird singing in the dead of night.
But for all its considerable power, there is one thing the Gaming Commission can't do, one place it cannot go.
So if you ever wanted to have any questions answered about the Pearl River Resort in Philadelphia, you need to go to them directly. But that's a whole nother, we get asked that question a lot, and we'll get people calling about that casino, and we're like, we don't even set foot on it.
They are a nation unto themselves. They were the kickstart in gambling in Mississippi. The Native American Gaming Act that occurred in, I believe it was 1992, got this all started.
The massive gaming complex that today sits outside Philadelphia was the vision of longtime Choctaw Chief Philip Martin. Martin saw the potential to transform not only the tribe, but the entire area.
So we're talking massive growth, massive economic impact within a very short period of time. And he was just fascinated that so much had been done, where you go from almost poverty to prosperity.
There's almost 100% employment on the reservation now with the Choctaws. Housing and employment and education. It is absolutely heartwarming to me to see what has happened with the Native American reservations and the Native Americans in Mississippi.
The Choctaw casinos changed a lot in Neshoba County, and not just economically.
For the latest on the search for the 3 missing boys,
the success helped wipe away the stain of violence and prejudice in a town most known for the murders of 3 civil rights workers in 1964. Today, it seems like a model of cooperation and progress.
I'm a living witness of history from the standpoint of just Philadelphia, Mississippi. But, hey, I take it to our advantage. I said, come see. It's not like it used to be.
Good evening. FBI agents raided the casinos on the Choctaw Indian Reservation near Philadelphia this morning.
But the past 10 years have seen some tough times for the Choctaws. An FBI raid in 2011 raised questions about how the casinos are operated, and that investigation continues. In 2010, then Governor Haley Barbour unsuccessfully tried to block the Choctaws from opening the Oklahoma Casino. People are still coming, but traffic and money have slowed, raising serious economic concerns.
We noticed that in Philadelphia, Mississippi, with the Choctaws, they overbuilt and actually closed one of their casinos and one of their hotels for several years. I understand they're back to operating 2 casinos now periodically, weekend, holidays, and that sort of thing, rather than 24/7 like they still operate one.
It's a brand new day here at Pearl River Resort.
The Choctaws put on a happy face for customers, but usually they don't talk to anyone about their business, and they decline to take part in this program. So the rumors persist. What is the FBI looking for? And what about those older allegations that the tribe funneled millions of dollars to influence an Alabama governor's race and protect the Choctaw share of the gaming market? Those questions remain unanswered.
We were not the engine, but we're attached to the train. And so do we go along for the ride or jump off? I'm going along for the ride.
That ride is getting increasingly bumpy, not only for the Choctaws, but for gaming all across the state. Casinos are still making money, but revenues have dropped steadily in recent years.
Our market has dropped from a $1.2 billion a year down to a $600 million a year market. And with that, Harrah's, which is owned by Caesars Entertainment, it's the largest gaming corporation in the world. They've closed here in Tunica.
Harrah's is not alone. Margaritaville closed in Biloxi. Other casinos have cut back or laid off employees.
1992, we were bringing in about $1.5 million a year in gaming taxes. And in this year, we're probably bringing in about the same amount of money, but with 2 casinos. So 2 equals 1 in the beginning.
There are a variety of explanations. The typical gambler isn't the young 20-something you see on the billboards or in the TV ads. It's someone in his or her 50s or 60s who usually goes only for the afternoon and does not spend as much. There's also more competition in surrounding states. Other casinos have now taken customers from Mississippi.
But in the last few years, you had the recession, you had Indiana, Iowa, Michigan, Missouri, all these other jurisdictions that their gaming has expanded, and those Midwest people that used to come to Tunica aren't coming anymore.
Still, the developers kept building. More casinos, more attractions. The gaming market in the state, originally envisioned as only a few riverboats, has now become saturated.
Reality, the industry was probably overbuilt in the beginning. And as the newness wore off, obviously less and less gambling was taking place.
There's an intersection in your town, and there's 3 gas stations on the intersection and 1 vacant lot. Do you think adding a 4th gas station on the open lot is going to improve the business of the other 3? And it's a math problem. The answer is no.
Gambling was like hitting an oil gusher. The money flowed so fast for so long, no one could believe it would ever run out. And now that it has, some casino towns are left high and dry.
Flat broke? That's an understatement. Because we have $30 million in debt.
Honestly, we can't raise taxes fast enough to make up the gap. That's why I've said they've got to look at some other things just in the interim, that can sort of stop the bleeding,
Vicksburg got all new fire trucks, all new police cars, a whole new convention center, and just spent the money as fast as they could when it was coming in. They didn't do a lot of careful long-range planning with it, like some of the communities up in the have done in the Midwest. But what they face now is that they've built up all this infrastructure in places like Tunica and Vicksburg, and as the market contracts, it's time to pay up for all the good times you had.
Rather than raising taxes, lower taxes. Rather than look at the industry as they did in 1990 and not look at how the industry has changed over the past 20 years and still have the same policies in the state of Mississippi that we had in 1990, those same policies in 2014 don't work.
In 2014, the Mississippi legislature created a task force to study the feasibility of both online gambling and sports betting. Such a move would further enrage gambling opponents and potentially siphon away casino business. It is yet another challenge for casino gaming in the state and raises further questions about whether Mississippi casinos are truly worth the gamble.
If you rely on free enterprise and the pure approach that offers, then you're susceptible to failure and the impact of failure, and that's what's happened.
When Jesse Jackson came here and he called Tunica County America's Ethiopia, but I don't, like I said, I've lived here all my life. I don't want to go back to the things that brought that national attention here. And I don't think we will.
It's been interesting to watch it. It has not turned the town into a hellhole, and it has not turned the town into a place where the streets are paved with gold. It's just kind of been like another industry that's come to town, and it's kind of come into the situation, some good, some bad.
train a-comin', it's rolling around the bend. And I ain't seen the sunshine since I don't know when. I'm stuck in Folsom Prison, and time keeps dragging on. But that train, it keeps a-rolling.